Good morning. My name is Terry McGuire. I'm a member of the board of the Canada Underground Railroad Center, and we are very happy to be here at Lincoln University, even if only remotely, to help celebrate the Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I'm going to share a screen here and let's see if this works. Okay. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to be doing a voiceover and talking to you without my picture showing there. So goodbye. I'll see you a little bit later. On this day set aside to honor Martin Luther King Jr., it's perfectly right to celebrate other African-American heroes. And we are proud to share what we know about such heroes of the 19th century and of this general area. The hero I'm going to discuss was born in Maryland, but spent much of his adult life in nearby Lancaster County, specifically in the area that is right next to Chester County, near the town, the little village of Christiana. He was a major figure in an event that occurred on September 11th, 1851. Many historians consider this one of the opening salvos of the Civil War. The man at the heart of this resistance, of the Christiana Resistance, was William Parker, and he was both like and unlike Martin Luther King. King and Parker both had strong religious beliefs, and they linked those beliefs to their deep sense of the profound injustice of slavery and of the ongoing oppression of Black people following the Civil War. Both Parker and King were charismatic leaders, men of great courage and determination. King was a firm believer in the power of nonviolent opposition and confrontation, lessons learned from Mahatma Gandhi in India. Throughout the years in which he grew to be a leader that we honor today, King demonstrated his belief in the morality and the efficacy of nonviolence. William Parker did not share that belief. As he expressed it in the autobiographical 1866 Atlantic Monthly articles, The Freedman Story, which you see reprinted here, with thanks to the Christiana Historical Society. My rights to the fireplace were won by my child fists. My rights as a freeman were, under God, secured by my own right arm. The reference to the fireplace was a tale about his early childhood in slavery. Orphaned children such as William lived in a large building with fireplaces for cold days. The older and stronger children crowded him away from the warmer places. That is, until he grew older and fought them one by one until he could have a seat at the fire. William realized early in his life that Black people were, quote, greatly wronged, and all this talk about obedience, duty, humility, and honesty was nonsense. As an adolescent, he got into a fight with his so-called master, who was badly hurt. William ran off with his brother John. While escaping north, they were spotted by a slave catcher who tried to apprehend them. Parker attacked him, broke his arm, and then chased him. This is the essential William Parker, a man of great physical strength, boldness, and determination to be free. He was not looking for trouble, though. And after crossing into Pennsylvania, he settled into a productive life as a farmer. He and his brother worked for one Dr. Dengie, a white man of whom Parker says, "I have never been better treated than by the doctor. I liked him and his family." Soon, however, Parker became aware that kidnappers and slave catchers were coming into Pennsylvania, and kidnapping both previously enslaved and freeborn Blacks. He created, quote, an organization for mutual protection against slaveholders and kidnappers. They went to a Lancaster court to free a Black man there and got into a brawl with his captors. When abolitionist Moses Whitson's Black servant was kidnapped, Parker's group rode after the gang, freed her, and savagely beat the kidnappers, two of whom later died. White thugs once broke into Parker's home, tried to pull a gun at him, and he floored the leader with a fireplace iron. When Parker discovered some African Americans were pretending to help fugitives, but were in fact betraying them, his group went to one and beat him nearly to death. Another such Judas barely escaped while they burned his house down. William Parker was fearless, deeply committed to justice, and believed strongly in his own right arm. So it was no surprise that when slave owner Edward Gorsuch and a band of 6 other whites, including a federal marshal named Klein, approached Parker's rented house before dawn on September 11th and demanded the return of his 4 former slaves, Parker said no. He said no in various ways, goading them, sassing them, threatening them. He said he would break Klein's neck. He would break Gorsuch's neck and knock his teeth down his throat. He told Gorsuch that he could come up the stairs, but he would not go down again. When the whites threatened to burn down Parker's house, he said, try it. When Gorsuch said he'd come back with 100 men, Parker said, better make it 500. These whites were dumbfounded at the confident arrogance and firmness that Parker showed at this confrontation near Christiana. Parker's wife, Eliza, had sounded a horn as an alarm for the neighboring Blacks, and a large crowd gathered with sickles, clubs, corn knives, and a few guns. Fighting began in earnest. Edward Gorsuch was killed, his son and his nephew badly wounded, and the other whites scattered, as this drawing from William Still's Underground Railroad book demonstrates. The significance of what happened was not lost on Parker. A slaveholder had been killed while trying to enforce what was, in fact, the law of the land, the wretched Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Parker knew that he and his close associates needed to get away, that many men would come to capture them, which is exactly what happened after Parker and his men left. In one last act of defiance, they walked through the little village of Christiana, observed by many white people who knew who they were, including Marshal Klein. No one dared to stop them. By stages, they made their way north through Norristown, Pennsylvania, eventually by train reaching Rochester, New York, and barely escaped into Canada with the help of Frederick Douglass. There are many related stories that are not touched down here. For instance, the 1851 trial in Philadelphia for treason, punishable by death, of the many people arrested in connection with the Christiana Resistance, all of whom were exonerated, and Parker's very productive time in Canada. There is one more point I'd like to make about Parker. Despite his terrible treatment by whites and harassment, he did not resent whites in general, but rather responded openly when treated as an equal. For example, early in his adult life, he had heard and was deeply moved by William Lloyd Garrison, both the sentiments and the eloquence, and paid great respect to them. He greatly respected Dr. Dengie and his family. On the way to Rochester, he sat with a white man and exchanged cordial conversation, even discussing the big news that they saw in the newspapers of what happened in Christiana without saying who he was. In Canada, Parker met with a government official and freely admitted to the man that he was the person whom the governor of Maryland had requested be extradited. Parker and the official got along just fine, and there was no extradition. When he moved with his family to Buxton in Western Ontario, a settlement for Black people, for Black freedom seekers from America, He was treated with kindness by Reverend William King and Dr. Willis, white administrators of that place, and he wrote very positively about them. Quite simply, when white people treated William Parker and other Black people with respect and dignity, Parker returned those feelings. And when they didn't, he returned those feelings as well. Thank you. And I'll be passing this along to the next person. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.